Whoa, okay, what the earth, guys? This is nuts. I've not come across a month this jam-packed with news. I don't know if ever. I mean, I know November 2023 was like pretty freaking full of news, but oh lord, the amount of stuff that happened in March of 2024 is overwhelming. What's up, Aridity Man back? Welcome to a brand new video, and today we're going to be doing another Godzilla -1 news roundup. In this video, we will be continuing our chronological journey through the release of Godzilla -1 and the development of Toho's next Godzilla film by covering events that happened in March of 2024. In this video, we will be specifically tackling the Oscars season for Godzilla, as well as an interview with Takashi Yamazaki, which might give us a pretty good indication about where Godzilla -1 is heading, at least in terms of tone and theme, which I'm all for. Let's jump into it. Starting out, I want to do what I always do, which is show off some art from the community, and this first one was actually a comparison piece showing off the progression of one of my favorite Godzilla artists' artwork, and that's Makio0001, starting out with his Godzilla 1964 Emergence version and jumping into his Godzillasaurus Odo Island attack version. I love this artwork. I love it. I love the use of flames. I love the way it lights up Godzilla. I love that he adds the scars, which was the topic of a recent video on this channel. That video I had a great time making, and I want to do more like that, but that is a great piece of art right there. I love it, and I love to see his progression. This next one is just a masterpiece here, and this comes from GNA, another one of my favorite Godzilla artists. I love that you can see the Godzillasaurus inside of Godzilla, almost like the creation of Godzilla within. I love it. I love the burning. I love the smoke. I just think it's epic. This was actually made recently to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of Godzilla -1, and I think it's incredible. Also, ironically, that creature at the start of Godzilla -1, as we'll talk about in a follow-up Godzilla -1 news and updates, is not technically the Godzillasaurus, although that's what I'm going to continue to call it. Matthew Higdon made this meme of Godzilla as the Cookie Monster. It's replacing Godzilla with the Cookie Monster in -1. This turned out really well. I think it's very fun, and I wanted to shout it out because it takes a lot of talent to be able to do stuff like this, and I loved it. I loved the meme, and I wanted to show it off. Yatsu Gellion created this incredible little model of Tokyo, downtown Tokyo, with Godzilla attacking the trains from -1. It looks amazing right there in front of the old Nichigeki Theater. It is so incredible. What a wonderful creation here. I'm really impressed with all of the detail that goes into this. This just looks amazing. I wish I knew how he made it. Hey, if you want to see what the old Nippon Nichigeki Theater looks like in real life, go check out episode 1 of Godzilla Ground Zero, where I traveled to Tokyo to show off Godzilla's filming locations over 70 years later to see what the Nippon Theater looks like today. And that video's a lot of fun. You should go check it out. Director of Godzilla -1, Takashi Yamazaki, worked on a new kaiju short film kind of thing. It was an ad for Ajinomoto, which is like about food waste and how we shouldn't waste so much food, and it's kind of like a kaiju thing, and they released a teaser trailer for an ad, so I'll shout that out and then we'll talk about the actual ad in another video. The Record of Godzilla -1 is releasing. It's a BTS making of book, which is running for $87, and like I said, it details the production of Godzilla -1. The 4K collector's edition of Godzilla -1 was revealed for Japan. That's actually the collection I have. It came with a lot of goodies, including Godzilla -Color and a booklet and some stickers and all sorts of stuff. It was a great release. The physical release in Japan had many different variations, some of which had limited goods, including Rakuten books, earphones, stickers, stands, and more, such as a Bandai Movie Monster series Godzilla -1 Memorial Golden version, which was available as a Blu-ray deluxe item. It's also just in time for the Godzilla -1 Oscars, in which Yamazaki showed up with his own Golden Godzilla, so it was perfectly coordinated. SH Monster Arts revealed their Godzilla -1 Color, which ran $135 and looks incredible. This was not a desaturated version of their original Godzilla -1 release, but this was a version that they made monochromatic with direction and approval from Takashi Yamazaki. Like I said, it's not desaturated. It was a custom paint job to make Godzilla look as good as possible. I did review the Godzilla -1 Color Super 7 release, but I did not get the SH Monster Arts release. However, I did review the actual Monster Arts release. Yamazaki and the VFX crew recreated Operation Sea God while waiting for their Oscars nomination. That's so cute, and I wonder what they were eating. It looks pretty yummy. Godzilla Minus One received a lot of Critics' Choice nominations, including Best Science Fiction Fantasy Movie, Best Actress in a Science Fiction Fantasy Film as Minami Hamabe, Best Villain in a Movie as Godzilla, and Best Actor in a Science Fiction Fantasy Movie as Ryonosuke Kamiki. Toho celebrated Godzilla becoming the highest grossing live-action film of 2023 in Japan at 6 billion yen. The Japanese Academy Awards then began with the Godzilla crew in attendance, and they swept. Oh my lord. Godzilla Minus One won big at the Japanese Academy Awards, winning Best Picture, Best Supporting Actress, Best Screenplay, Best Editing, Best Sound Mix, Best Cinematography, Best Lighting, and Best Art Direction. The only other Godzilla film to win Best Picture at the Japanese Academy Awards was Shin Godzilla back in 2016. Godzilla then arrived in Hollywood for the Oscars. The VFX crew arrived at the Oscars as well. Now I actually have an in-depth video doing my initial reaction to Godzilla Minus One's Oscar win as it happened, as well as a follow-up back in the day that were recorded in March of 2024, so earlier this year. And those videos go a lot more in depth. They've got a lot more to do with the actual Oscars win, in which I break down Yamazaki's victory speech, as well as all of the reaction from all of the Godzilla stars at the time. That's not what we're doing here today. This is just a breezy recap, you guys. Yamazaki showed up with his Ichiban Godzilla. Look at that beautiful thing. The VFX team then arrived at the Oscars in full, taking some photos, and Toho finally celebrated as Godzilla Minus One won the Oscar for Best Visual Effects, making Godzilla an Oscar-winning franchise. Goromoru Island celebrated, as well as Kaiju News Outlet. Figured I'd shout those guys out because they're my primary sources for news, and I love those guys. Then Godzilla Minus One was able to release an Academy Awards win poster and banner. I want to shout out Izumi animation of Godzilla winning the Oscar. This is a lot of fun. Very reminiscent of the other one of Godzilla winning the Oscar that came out around this time. And this one does feature Yamazaki's voice as Godzilla accepts the award. Very cute. I don't know if you remember this, but in a previous Godzilla news roundup, we talked about this. At the Hibiya Godzilla Square, another location you can see us visit in the first episode of Godzilla Ground Zero, a giant Godzilla 1954 torso statue was placed in the Godzilla Square to celebrate the 70th anniversary of Godzilla. On its final day, they put a Godzilla Minus One Oscars win banner right there. So Godzilla was holding on to an award of his own Oscars winning banner. Very cool. Wanted to shout that out. Wanted to show those off. I like it a lot. So at the Oscars, there was a press room held where the press got to ask questions, and they interviewed the VFX4 for Godzilla Minus One, with mostly Yamazaki doing the talking. So they all get up there with their Oscars and their Godzilla figures, which is very cute. The Academy Awards people celebrate the team's ability to pull off a win with such a low budget. Yamazaki says he's then open to opportunities that come his way and is hopeful to collaborate with US partners and studios soon. They emphasize how big this is for Japan and how hopeful they are that Japanese films embrace the US market and that Japanese films find more success overseas. Yamazaki confirms that a home release for Godzilla Minus One is coming to Japan and says that the home release should reach the US sooner rather than later, which is really funny because immediately after this there was a big old conspiracy that Godzilla Minus One was being censored from us and that we weren't going to be allowed to see it because of, I don't know, people just made up a conspiracy. I did a whole video talking about that, but I think it's so funny that it had already been debunked by Yamazaki before that had all started. One of the most interesting little details here is that Yamazaki confirms Toho handled the legalities between Legendary and Warner Bros. In regards to keeping Godzilla Minus One in theaters and getting a home release in the United States so close to Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire. He says that Toho tried very hard to keep the film in theaters for as long as possible, and it would have gone on longer if it could, implying that there is some sort of contractual obligation for Toho and Legendary to not have Godzilla films in theaters at the same time. Of course, with New Empire coming out in March, Minus One had to leave in February to give it space. It was very interesting. Yamazaki says he wished the film could still be in theaters, but he was grateful to have seen it have as much success as it did and to see it last in US theaters for as long as it did, considering it was only supposed to be a 1-week limited release. When asked if Godzilla Minus One was a response to the film Oppenheimer, Yamazaki confirms that it's something of a sort of unintentional Japanese response to the topic of Oppenheimer, but that everything was truthfully unintentional as both films were being worked on at the exact same time and neither one knew about the other's existence. He says that it was fate that both films were released in the same year and touched on such similar topics, but that wasn't the point. This is where things get interesting, and this maybe gives us an indication of where he's heading with the sequel, or whatever Godzilla film he's working on, as there's still no official confirmation it is a sequel. Yamazaki says that someday he hopes and would love to dedicate an entire film to Oppenheimer, and a response to that film and its messages and its themes, but that day was was not then, and he hopes the day comes soon. So will the next Godzilla film under director Takashi Yamazaki's influence and direction be an Oppenheimer response? I don't know. I kind of get the impression with that quote that Yamazaki's planning something else, that he saw Oppenheimer and it maybe sparked ideas other than Godzilla in his head. But I would say that whatever Yamazaki's got coming up next, it will be inspired by Oppenheimer. It's very clear from all of the interviews released around the time of the Oscars, Yamazaki was profoundly moved by Oppenheimer. Of course, he had to travel to a different country to see it, and it is a movie that he consistently talks about. He celebrates meeting Christopher Nolan. He celebrates meeting Cillian Murphy. He talks about how if he got to use an international cast, he would hope some of the cast of Oppenheimer would work with him. I think it's very clear that whatever Yamazaki's got next, it will be something of a response to Oppenheimer. Whether or not that's the film Yamazaki is sort of dedicating as a direct response to that film or not, I don't know. But I think it's going to be undeniable that whatever Yamazaki took away from Oppenheimer will be addressed in the next Godzilla film, and I think that's very exciting. Obviously, Godzilla for Yamazaki, for Toho, and for many of us is a representation of the fears of the atomic bomb, and that hasn't changed since his initial inception, or really just nuclear threats overall. And so I'm very curious to see what Yamazaki does next and how deep he goes into those themes after Oppenheimer so boldly tackled them head on. Obviously, Oppenheimer did a much more direct job tackling those themes than Godzilla Minus One, but I would actually like to see Godzilla get a little more deep with that and a little more intentional with it. Minus One I do think was pretty reserved in its nuclear criticisms and its nuclear allegories, and I would like to see them go even further for the next one. So I'm excited to see what they do next. Finally, they talk about Godzilla's design and how it was inspired by all the previous versions of the character, and they say that they tried to get the core of Godzilla down without changing really anything at all, and only once they had that nailed did they start to shape Godzilla into the version of the character he became for the final movie. Godzilla started out as a symbol of terror, war, and nuclear power, and that's what Yamazaki wanted to convey through the design in this new movie. Next up, director Gareth Edwards, director of Godzilla 2014, and Takashi Yamazaki reunited after the Oscars for a little interview. Of course, the two of them are friends, both Godzilla filmmakers with similar themes and experiences, as both of them come from the VFX world. Both were nominated for an Oscar for VFX in the same year, and both of them are directors who work on incredibly low budgets. So with the two of them having so much in common, they did an interview together where they discussed that. Edwards celebrates that they are both geeks and both VFX guys who got major wins at the Oscars. Even if Godzilla is the film that won, the creator's nomination was a win in and of itself. Yamazaki celebrates how successful a director can be when he knows the ins and outs of VFX and how things are going to look in post-production. They both say that they hope the era of directors working on VFX is coming soon, and that more VFX people will start to become directors, as they really understand the workflow. Edwards celebrates how directors don't have to come from writing, acting, and cinematography backgrounds anymore, and how they can come from the VFX world as well. Edwards also says that the ultimate weapon of a director working on grand scope movies is VFX, because they can accomplish anything, and if a director knows how the VFX process works, they know exactly what they need to shoot in the moment to get things right to help the process down the line rather than weigh things down. This is how both directors were able to make both films on such low and tight budgets, and this is how they were able to work so efficiently. Yamazaki celebrates that he gets to do anything with Godzilla in the first place, let alone make a full movie with him. The whole film was in service of Godzilla and not in service of himself. He says his hope was to make a movie that Godzilla would be proud of if he was real. Yamazaki then credits Gareth Edwards for restoring Godzilla to his current status with the 2014 film. Gareth Edwards gets a little shy here and gives a little fist bump to Godzilla, as he's kind of awkward about receiving such praise, but it's a really wholesome moment and is one of the reasons why I love both of these directors so much. Finally, Chibi Godzilla returns. What a switch up here. Chibi Godzilla returned with a brand new season themed after Godzilla Minus One. There was a little trailer for it, and then a poster for it announcing that there would be English subtitles as well, and that the show would start airing on April 10th in Japan on TV and on YouTube. You can go watch it now. I loved the first season of Chibi Godzilla. I thought it was very fun. I have not seen the new season with the Godzilla Minus One theme, so I have absolutely no idea what that means, but I think that's awesome. I love the little poster, and I could always use more Chibi Godzilla. I just think the guy's such a menace, and I really love him. Oh my god, that'll do it for the first episode of the frickin' March breakdowns. There's so much more to get through. As always, I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons over on Patreon for all of their support. It is through the support of the Patreon that I'm able to continue to make videos like this, and by supporting the Patreon, you can get early access to content, access to the Discord community, and more. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you guys next time for the next one. D-Man out.